And welcome to Vertical Pursuit. Mike Barrett, Mike Tatlock, and we want to welcome you in and thank you for watching and listening. And a reminder that we are on audio on Spotify and iTunes, where also you can get the video version of the podcast on YouTube and on the Vertical Pursuit app. And we invite you to go to the website as well. And we just want to thank you for all the comments and the encouragement that we've been getting from men and women, as we have talked about. And Micah, it's funny. I've heard from mostly women lately saying, "Thank you so much. Now I have an insight into my husband's mind, or my boyfriend's mind, or even my son's mind on how men think, maybe why they don't communicate, and you're giving them tools, and that's, I think, one of our big reasons for doing this."
That's it. Yeah, we were always directed towards a male audience, but we always knew that we would also see the benefit to our lady friends out there listening to that, and then how they engage in relationships with the men in their life. It could be their dad, it could be their husband, it could be their future husband, boyfriend. So it's been fun to hear the feedback. This is episode 9, and it's been great for all of you. You have been just watching, tuning in. The support has been overwhelming, so thank you for that. But we're pumped today. We got something real special for you guys.
Yeah, sometimes we have guests, as we've talked about, and today I'm happy, and I mentioned Dave in an earlier episode as a guy who I was going to have on. I didn't know how. I didn't know if you were traveling. I didn't know where you were. You're on Discovery Channel. You're doing all this stuff, and you had your own show. But Dave Turin of Gold Rush fame and a good friend, we appreciate you taking the time to join us in person today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You know, it's kind of funny. Before I move on, though, this is weird. I want to let you guys know. So in my world, you never look at the camera. I mean, that's what we're taught.
Reality TV.
Reality TV, because then you're identifying that there's a camera there. So I'm watching you guys, and you keep looking at the camera. I'm like, don't look at the camera, you guys. So that's my world. It's like I'm not supposed to look at the camera, and you guys are standing there staring at the camera. Oh, wait, it's this one, looking at the cameras. So I might be a little bit awkward, okay? But, yeah, thanks for having me. And that's kind of the way you and I met.
Yeah.
Gosh, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
It was just random. I'm sitting there with my wife. We're watching TV. I think it was Wheel of Fortune. And then I see his ugly mug on TV.
This is a couple nights ago.
It was just a couple nights ago. And I thought, you know what? I haven't talked to Mike. And I just texted him saying, hey, good to see you. How you been? How's life? And that's the way we kind of are. And then he told me that you're doing this podcast. And then one thing led to another, and here I am. So
and I texted
thanks
him
for having me.
I said, we're bumping that one topic, and we're going to Dave, because he's got you're always on the road, and I always envision having you from some gold mine somewhere on Zoom, which we will do more of that in the future. But let's rewind to maybe, we'll get to your past. I'll get to how we met, and then kind of some things we tried, because I've talked about that a little bit as well. We kind of had this in mind, though, like 5 years ago.
We did.
We had talked about doing something like that. You and I spent a lot of time in the car, going out helping on some elk hunts, because you and I found ourselves in very similar situations in 2016. And that is, I was out of the NBA. Blazers, we've talked about it, fired me, fired the broadcast staff, so we're out. My life's changed. You'd been on Gold Rush, I think, for 8 seasons, back when Gold Rush was, pardon the pun, the gold standard for reality TV. Not that it isn't great still, but back then it was rolling, man. And your crew, and I had watched, and I was a Gold Rush fan, and always watched when I was on the road, because I lived in hotel rooms then. And I know some guys on our crew, and always watched Gold Rush. And Todd Hoffman, who was part of your crew then, had reached out to me at one point, because he was a Blazer fan. And it's funny, because I then was like, when I watched, I got to meet that Dave guy, because Dave's authentic, and Dave is real, and Dave and you always were the kind of the glue guy. And so I happened to be at a friend's ranch that had a gold mine on it, a bunch of gold mines on it, old gold mines. So I had sent Todd a message, and Todd said, we're looking to shoot a movie. I think it was a movie or it was a show. And can we come look at that? And I said, actually, I'm up here now at the ranch. So you guys are in Colorado.
Yep.
Ironically, before something happened that we'll get into that ended your time on, with that crew anyway, on Gold Rush. So you guys fly in, and I said to Todd, who's coming with you? And he talked about who's coming, Freddie and Andy and Dave. And so I said, Dave's coming. Okay, good. I'm going to get to meet Dave. He walks up to me. In fact, I think when and you walked up and said, hey, I watched you for years. And I said, no, I've watched you for years. And so there was this mutual admiration society going on there when you guys got there. But take us, I wanted to kind of rewind on how we met. But how did this all start, this Gold Rush thing? Because it blew up and you guys got huge and you went through some fantastic times and some really challenging times, which is kind of what life's all about. But how did it all start for you? And did you see yourself 12 years ago, a reality TV star?
Oh my gosh. We're going to go way back.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting, Mike, how it did start. Because I believe God has plans, and sometimes we mess those plans up, but there's always an underlying current. And sometimes I believe, we can get off path, and then God kind of knocks us back on the right path. There's a couple scripture that I always relate to, and one is trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, and he will make your path straight. Yeah. For me, a path is made for walking. If you stand still on a path, you're blocking everybody else's way. So I've always been a guy that goes down that path. And so that kind of sets it up. So I meet Todd. We met through church, and he told me that he was going to go gold mining with one of his buddies, and he had this equipment sitting in his yard, and he asked me to look at his equipment, see what I thought.
And being Dozer Dave, because you always your family had in the rock quarry business and kind of in that world anyway, so you knew how to drive every piece of equipment on Earth.
Exactly. So I'd been in that business for 25, 30 years, and Todd knew that. So he's like, I want your opinion. So for me, I was just helping a guy out. And along the way, I took him up to the quarry. We were doing, his pumps, how to move rocks, how to move dirt, how to screen, all that stuff. And I was just helping a buddy out. But along the way, he keeps telling me, he goes, I think I'm going to do this TV show. I think I got a TV show. And when your buddy tells you that, you're like, yeah, right. Yeah, you're going to do a TV show. And so then he calls me like in May, and he goes, Dave, I'm loading up. Would you come out and help me load up? And I get there, and there's camera guys and TV and producers, and I'm like, sound guys. I was like, holy smokes, he pulled it off. It was amazing. And so we got him, and he left, and I thought to myself, that was cool. I don't know how it'll happen. And deep down in my heart, I thought, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Who wants to watch a bunch of men mine? Because I'd been mining my whole life, and I'm like, it's boring. Who wants to watch that? Little did I know that show took off. It was like the way it took off was just like unbelievable. Yeah. The growth. I mean, it started at 100,000, went to 400,000 people. Then it was 1 million people. And we were pulling 5, 6, 7, 8 million people would watch it.
That's crazy. And it became global too.
Friday night.
You guys, people from around the world, I'm sure, started at some point tuning in. But
we were dubbed.
You guys were a phenomenon.
70 different languages.
70?
Over 200 countries.
Oh my word!
Unbelievable.
And you told me one time that reality hit you when you, if I have the story right, weren't you on a beach in Italy?
I was on a path.
We were walking somebody
through
recognized
Cinque
you.
Terre. My wife and I get to go on this Italian, vacation, and it was once in a lifetime. And we're walking through olive groves and vineyards, and it was just amazing, right above the coast. And we're walking along, and it zigzags back, right? And as we come across, we past a group of young people. We cross over, and right below us, I hear them because the voice carries. And they said, Gold Rush. And I yelled at the kid. I go, hey, do you know who I am? And in perfect English, she goes, yeah, you're Dozer Dave from Gold Rush. I go, how'd you know that? He goes, we get Discovery Channel here. And I go, where do you live? And he says, right there in that village.
No way.
So I was recognized. And then we were, same thing, in a cafe in Paris. Huh. We're sitting there. Some guy gets up, walks over to us, and said, hey, are you on that TV show called Gold Rush? I said, I sure am. So it's unbelievable how far it's come. But you asked me 12 years ago, would I imagine where I'm in the position I am now? No clue, no idea. Like anything, it has its ups and downs. It's allowed me to see the world. I've been to, 5 or 6 different countries. I've been in probably 12, 13 different states. I've seen the world. I've met people that I would never have had the opportunity. And, again, I talk about that path. A lot of times I'd be walking down a path. I think, well, this is where I'm supposed to go. Well, then God's like, hey, Dave, over here. And so I've walked down some other paths, but it's been an amazing journey. It's been an amazing journey.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I love how you use that analogy of the path, and then God sometimes has to nudge us back. I think of like the rerouting. Everybody can relate to that when you're got your GPS out, you set in a coordinate, and you're going. Maybe. We all do. I was driving with somebody the other day, and like she changed the voice just because it was more soothing. It's like the voice of correction. You want it to be a soothing, but God does that. He does that. Hey, it's time to do some recalculating. You've wandered off. I love that picture. I think everybody can relate to that, because it also says too that God does have a plan for everybody's life, and whether we acknowledge that, discover that, that's part of the journey. But yeah, that's a great analogy.
The one thing that, Mike, I met you at a critical time in my life. We've talked about it before. When a man loses his job or his identity, because you think about it, when that was a tough time, and I know it was a really difficult time for you.
Yeah.
I'm Dozer Dave,
Yeah.
on a really successful reality TV show, and then it ends.
Yeah.
I had the same feeling. You played athletics. I remember that same feeling when my college career playing football was over.
At Oregon State.
At Oregon State. And I was like, it was the same feeling. I mean, it's probably 30 years later same feeling. It's like, it's over.
Yeah.
Now I'm just a regular Joe.
Right.
And you came into my life at the right time.
Also a regular Joe, all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you lived the life of an NBA announcer, and it was like we connected at the perfect time.
Yeah.
We developed a friendship. We tried some crazy things.
Yeah.
But out of it, there's been a lot of good.
You talk of being humbled, finding yourself with a huge platform, and then all of a sudden, things you say, things you do, traps you can get caught in, are presented before you on a very public stage, and things that maybe you're tested through. I know that you had some of those with different fans that would reach out and people that would come to you. But the challenges you met with that in that forum, on that platform, how did that help you, and what were those times like?
The fans, the people that you interact with on social media, what I found is I don't pay a lot of attention to that. I've grown to, now don't get me wrong, there's some people that reach out that are genuine, and I want to respond to them because they're for real. But the critics that do nothing more than, they're keyboard warriors, and they sit there and they complain. One of the things that I've always felt for myself, if I'm going to survive in this industry, I felt I had to be true to myself. I had to be who I am. I never wanted to change who I am. I just wanted to, and I always felt like if my job on this show was to get as much gold and to lead a group of men, that's my job, and I'm gonna do my best. And because I did that, I believe that's why I remained on, because I stayed true to myself. I stayed true to my calling, which was get as much gold and to lead men. And Mike, you and I have talked about it. I believe the demise of partly me and that how I got off of Todd's show and the Gold Rush main show is originally when I started, Mike. I think I shared this with you. Yeah. We did Bible studies every morning, and we prayed together every morning. And
the show would show you guys praying before a day or before you're going to a mine, which I always thought, wow, they're showing that, because sometimes mainstream TV doesn't do that. But you were always a leader in those opportunities where you guys would come together and you would pray. I think one of the early shows, you had a real heartfelt prayer, and a couple guys were crying, and that's what got me watching the show, honestly. The authenticity of not necessarily the prayer, as odd as that was, but the fact, as you're saying, you guys were allowed to be authentic to a certain degree, I think.
Oh yeah, that's who we were. That's who I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I came into it. The first year I came in, and I was on the show maybe 2 or 3 times in the first season, and I saw that they did need a leader, that they needed somebody to kind of collectively pull everybody together and work as a team. And so one of the things I vowed to, because it was real, going back to that in the beginning, I had to guard myself against what a man wants. Do you think about the enticements there that was enticing me to go on TV? Number one, fame, TV.
Yeah.
Number 2, it's Alaska. I love the far north. I love the critters and the animals and the snow and the trees. I mean, it's what I was all made up to be. And then number 3 is gold. Men through history have chased gold.
Yeah.
So I had to really guard myself. I'm like, I had to be like in prayer and go, all right, God, is this really, is this what Dave Turin wants, or is this something? So with that, through prayer with Shelly and my wife and I, we decided that there was a few things that had to happen. And one of them was doing that Bible study. And number 2 was we were going to share a meal together. So my wife cooked breakfast before, and then we'd meet, have that Bible study. And as long as we kept doing that, we were pretty good. So for 3, 4, 5 years, and then things started to change. This kept somebody busy over here. They had to do this. I had to go look at a truck. I had to make an appointment. I had phone calls. Now all of a sudden we're meeting every other day, and then we're meeting once a week.
Yeah.
And then it becomes once every 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then there's people sleeping, and then there's people. Yeah. And I'll take as much responsibility as anybody as the leader.
Right.
I started to become frustrated with the lack of participation, the lack of treating it, with a certain respect and reverence. Yeah. And then I kind of gave up. And that's when I believe, it's my opinion and my perception, that's when things went south. Wow. And it wasn't long after that I got off the show. Wow. And I'm not going to go into any of that. I mean, I take full responsibility for my part in it. Yeah. And I take responsibility for it. But I do believe that when men meet together and they pray together and they read the Bible together, good things happen.
Yeah. Wow.
And what you're referring to, the oddity of your role and your job, it kind of climaxed in a very public setting where people saw it. And a lot of people said, I remember seeing at the time, and this is the fight that happened, physical fight. Yeah. People said, well, that's fake. But I was talking to you at that time, and I knew it wasn't fake. No. And so I told a few people, that was real.
It was not acting.
I had a black eye for several weeks. Wow. So.
Well, and people could see it in the episode, even a split over your eye. But I mean, you're knowing that obviously there's a buildup of frustration. And that was right during the time you and I were talking. And I remember you texted me one time, and I could tell you were broken, and you said, I'm walking something like I'm walking through the forest by myself, and I'm thinking about all this, and it doesn't feel right. And you mentioned the fact that you guys had stopped meeting, stopped Bible study, and then the end came with the fight, which was again caught on camera for the most part. They caught kind of the end of it when you'd kind of lost it, and so had he, and it was just crazy. And it's out there, and anybody who's a fan of the show has seen it. But you guys went at it. I mean, a physical fight, which you later regretted, and you even said on the show, I'm going to resign. I can't do this anymore. But how weird was it to see maybe where some people would have a meltdown at work and chuck their computer monitor? Millions of people aren't seeing that. But in this case for you, all the while knowing the TV guys are loving this because this is drama, man. This is going to bring people in. But you're kind of the victim of that. And I know that you're going to take blame for it. How weird was it, though, to have that being captured and so public?
it was a bad day, Mike. It was really a bad day, and I regret it 100%. I regret it. I wish I could take it back. Somebody told me it's the most viewed segment in Gold Rush history.
There you go. Yeah.
It was ugly, and I was ugly, and I take full responsibility for. But here's how fate would have it. I'll give you a little insight. I've shared it. I've never shared it publicly, but here's how fate would have it. So the other guy and I'm not going to name names. The other guy and I got into it, and I'm retreating, and somehow he caught me off guard. He hit me twice, knocked me down. I jump up, and we're going to go. Now, nobody knows. There was a couple guys there that dragged us apart. And when the yelling and screaming starts, the cameras all bust over the hill.
Yeah.
So this hasn't nothing.
Miss this.
And if it's not on camera, it doesn't happen.
True.
So the black eye didn't happen. That first initial thing didn't happen. And in sports, the guy that retaliates is always the guy that takes the brunt.
Yep.
So here's how fate would have it. So they pull us apart. Todd says, turn out of here. And so I get in the truck, a pickup truck, and Andy's driving me off site. As he's driving me off site, the other guy's taunting me. You chicken, yellow belly, come back to fight like a man. We're driving out. There's one way in, one way out. The lady that's working on cleaning the porta potties blocks the road. Now's my chance to jump out. So what's Dave going to do? I go running. Now the cameras see, here comes turn. They swing the cameras about the time that I'm going to jump on the other guy. Well, Todd goes, and he blocks my, I was going to go tackle him, and then there's Todd. I don't want Todd. I want the other guy, and I'm in midair. And
Todd goes down.
And you landed on Todd. That was it.
Todd goes down.
Todd goes down. Anyway, it was such chaos, and then everybody jumps on, and that's what the cameras caught. But they never caught the first part of it. They only caught the second part. And then, stupid me, I've got to, when somebody calls you out in front of all my friends.
Right, yeah.
He's been on the crew for maybe 2 or 3 months. Wow. I've been 6, 7, 8 years with these guys.
Wow.
And now he's calling me out, and I got to jump out, go take care of business.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now you got a little insight into that.
See,
that
I didn't
story.
even know that until you just said that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had no idea. The real story.
The real story is the road gets blocked.
Yeah.
And so then I give them a scene that'll live on, in infamy.
How many, okay, park there for a second though, because think about this. That was like that moment in your life that you're like, gosh, I wish I could go back and, we all have those moments, regret things, right? But how many, like you were saying, Mike, how many of us have made really like massive mistakes in our life that we all regret, but it wasn't captured on film?
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes if getting caught sometimes is a way that God uses that as a reflection of like, hey, I wish every mistake we made wasn't publicly seen, but something. How did you respond to that moment being publicly known by everybody? Like, how did you process that other than just, okay, I got to do some damage control of my image and, whatever. But like, how did you process that in your own heart and life?
That was the hardest thing, Mike, because I'm under a microscope.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm the guy praying. I'm the guy that was a leader in the church.
Right.
So I've got all these critics. Yeah. My worst critics are in the church.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I do know that.
We're held to a different standard.
We are.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
I'm not taking away from any of that. Mm-hmm. However, when we do make a mistake, we're in the public eye.
Yeah.
And we can crash hard. So for me, I really had to make it right. I publicly apologized to everybody in the church. I said, look, I've made a very bad mistake. It makes God's people look like, again, I'm the guy praying, I'm the guy leading, and then I make a mistake like that. And it was ugly. So I felt I had to apologize. I apologized to my family, apologized to my church, apologized to, and then I did try to make it right with the rest of the crew. I felt I did my job. Yeah. And so in the end, Mike, I felt okay. I'm good with God. like we all make mistakes.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, you think of the heroes in the Bible. David
Yeah. Wow.
had a guy killed
Yeah.
after he slept. Peter,
Right.
he said, "Get away from me, Satan," called his best friend.
Yeah.
So, and God forgave those guys.
Yeah.
So I think, I felt God's forgiven me for making that mistake, and then I move on.
Yeah.
But what's important and it's critical is you got people like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
that came at the right time.
Yep.
Now, I could have ignored that. I could have said, "No, God, I'm good. I'm an island. I'm a rock. I can do this."
Yeah.
Be all by myself, right?
Yeah.
And isolate. But a guy like this comes into my life, and it was good. Then it gives me a sense of belonging, a sense of, man, somebody's got my back. Somebody's been through this with me.
Yeah.
We went through this. It was almost identical time.
Yeah.
And I would have never met Mike. I mean, our paths were way out like this. And again, I believe God put us on that path. Now, I could have said, nope, he's an NBA guy, and I'll take this path.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want to know what's up. And we shared some great times.
Yeah.
We tried some things.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Yeah,
fun.
you did.
We had a couple. We had
Talk about that. That was pretty cool. That was
we had a
awesome.
couple of drives out before I get to that, but we had a couple of drives out because we both all of a sudden had a lot of time on our hands,
Yeah.
and it was hunting season in the fall. So we drove out to 5 hours or whatever a couple times to help out some veterans who were going on these hunts. Some of them active duty, some of them not. The hunts were great, but the great time was at the windshield time, driving out to the ranch and talking to you about all this stuff and letting you go and talk. I never turned to radio. You don't do that when you're driving out. You just sat there and chatted with it. So I'm happy that we were able to do that at that time. And then we were talking at one point about doing something like this. And then we met a couple other guys and did a show that kind of was going to be reality, turned into a little more scripted kind of reality. We did do a few episodes. I did go to Discovery Channel with you, headquarters in Hollywood, and we did, I suppose, MGM as well.
Outdoor channel.
And with Discovery, supposedly we made it to they said, they get pitched all these shows and nobody makes it to where you guys made it. We didn't know if the faith element maybe was what tripped them up a little bit, but it was more about restoring broken men, which was what we talk about. And we did do, you learn in TV is shooting is one thing, and shooting is difficult and expensive. Editing is a whole nother thing. And editing, how expensive that was to do. So we edited one show out full, which was a pilot episode in Mexico, oddly enough, where Dave got arrested by Mexican police
I saw that part.
in the episode, which was great. But we went out and it was fishing and but it was, the message I think was good and is what you were talking about. And it was authentic to what we were going through at the time. And then it didn't get picked up. And then we're kind of like, and then it just kind of, and then you got a show back on Discovery Channel again, which was Dave Turin's Lost Mines, where you're kind of rehabbing old mines. And I know you're not done with this yet because it's in your blood. People pick that up from you in what you do and how you are on camera and how you, and the biggest thing I think that when I watch your shows on Discovery, and it is, as you said before, it's so built into men, the gold mining thing and the searching and the patience and don't stop now because the gold could be behind the next rock. It's all the stuff that we talk of. So many different parables in life.
Yes.
And in the Bible even are wrapped around this search and this quest and the gold, whatever the gold may be in the parable. But that part I think is what drives you. But you've had success beyond the Gold Rush main show in your other show, despite the fact that ours didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, it worked. It just didn't get picked up.
But it's a good lesson. You didn't give up. I didn't give up. If I were to take those two, you could call them failures. I always kind of look at a failure, or if I did not succeed, it gives me another opportunity. It's given me other opportunities that, because like when I got off Gold Rush, I went and I was prospecting for high wealth investors because they wanted to get into gold. They were in natural gas, oil, coal, things like that. They're natural resource guys, and they wanted to get into gold mining. Right. So I jumped on that. And through the process, I started a YouTube channel called Prospectors. And we started doing it, and it started gaining a lot of ground. And then a production company again that did Gold Rush saw that, realized that I've got some followers, and so they came to me and said, "Would you do a Gold Rush spinoff?" And my answer was no. I said, "I don't want to do a spinoff. I've got a better idea." And what I wanted to do, and again, it's about people, and it's about history, and it's about America. In America, it was pretty much founded on gold. That's what brought people here. I mean, you think of all the cities: Boise, Idaho, Denver, Colorado, San Francisco supplied all the, all the supplies for the 49er gold rush.
Right.
I mean, all these cities, if we forget that history, it's going to go away. And so I love the history. I love the people that I met along the way. And lo and behold, I got a second chance, which is really rare in reality TV to get a second chance. So it was my show, my name on it. And it's been quite the journey. I'll tell you a real quick story about it. So I talked about, this is my wife. I love my wife. She's the most amazing person that I've ever met. And she keeps me on track. God uses her to keep me on the straight path.
Right.
So now,
and by the way, she's been on camera in some shows, even on Gold Rush. She's been around. So and they shot in your kitchen one time, and she's in there. So anyway, you don't try to hide her; she's out front, and I like that.
Yeah, an amazing woman. She hates the cameras, by the way. I'll tell you another story about that. So, where was I going with it? It was
your wife.
Yeah, but what was I going to tell you about?
You were talking about history.
Oh, I know what it was. Yeah. So we started Gold Rush, and we had a plan that we were going to do a Bible study and meet.
Okay.
So now I get my own show.
Huh.
And we're about ready to start shooting, and my wife goes, "Are you going to do the Bible study and read and pray with the guys?" This is me.
Huh.
I'm telling you the truth. Nope, not going to do it, Shelley. I only got one believer with this group. The other four were non-believers. And I said they're going to be opposed to it. My wife looks at me. She goes, this is how smart she is. She goes, remember how well it went?
Yeah.
Do you remember how well it went when you did meet and you did pray and you read the Bible? Yeah, I remember, Shell. So we did that.
Wow.
Now, I know of two guys that were God converted.
Wow.
Through that.
Wow.
Through that.
Yeah.
Got two of the guys that I know, and one of them passed away. Good friend Jesse.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was hard. Sweet, sweet man. Died on the set a year and a half ago.
You guys addressed that, didn't you, on the show?
Yeah, it was public. I mean, it was real, man. It was tough. But the really cool part was, we would have those meetings. We read the Bible. We talked about, what it's all about. And Jesse, when he started, he told Chris, the other Christian guy, he goes, Dave wants to do that religious crap. He goes, I'm not into that. He goes, I think everybody's going to heaven, and, I don't want any part of that. And my deal was, I said, look, you can come. I'm going to do this. Chris was a strong believer, and he came every time.
Huh. Yeah.
And he started enjoying it. Like I'd miss a day or something, I'd have, he goes, hey, we didn't have we going to do it tomorrow? Yeah, Jess, we're going to do it tomorrow.
Yep.
And through that, I believe he was saved. His brother came to me weeping at his memorial service. He goes, me and Jesse didn't have a relationship. And he goes, I've always tried to talk to Jesse about God and Jesus. And he goes, you did it. He goes, I saw the change in him. And his wife told me that she saw the change in him. So
what I love about that, because you've mentioned this twice now, so we've been talking, early on you talked about it, how when you started the show with Gold Rush, you guys were doing the Bible study, and what comes to my mind is you were a treasure hunter. If you think about that, you think of how many movies are, like you were talking about the history, so many things, because there's something in us that the adventure of the treasure and discovery. A lot of us men were driven to find the promise of a treasure. And a lot of times treasure hunters never find the treasure. It's the elusive promise of it, right? But what I love is like you talked about every day you guys were in the Word together. And the Bible talks about where your treasure is, there's where your heart is also, right? And so all of us can fill in the blank. Treasure might be, that CEO position. It might be the vacation home. It might be like everybody can fill in the blank, whatever pursuit of a treasure. But then you said earlier, it went from daily to maybe weekly to whatever. And I keep thinking of the slow fades. When we get off track, it's never, usually it's not like, man, I went from here to like completely off the rails. It's I didn't get in the Word today, or, I didn't get and then before you know it, it's 6 months. And I love how you've just created that perspective. All the more reason that we need to check ourselves and go, have I drifted just slowly? I need to come back. And you had your wife to be that voice to remind you of that priority, to say, don't drift again, And I love that God used her voice in your life for that. And now there's a legacy of a man that we're talking about here who's going to forever be in the presence of Jesus after he died because of that. I just think like that's an eternal impact right there. That's an awesome story.
And the show, my new show, if for no other reason, those two guys, I'll see them in heaven.
That's it.
At the end. Yeah. The rest could be whatever.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? It's just like, maybe that was the only reason, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
And the countless others who saw you model what it was like, and who maybe got curious and started asking questions. But as I always say, and we'll talk about in future episodes, leading one guy, it's hard. It's hard. And you start counting, okay, how many guys have you led? And you lead through modeling, like I think we try to do too, and not do it the right way. But even if you just have that one that you can hang your hat on, and then maybe the next season, next show, there's another one, still worth it. So worth it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
And I actually like that you had that big public, some people call it a failure. I actually don't, because how many guys of faith out there don't want to say, I'm going to invite a couple guys to a Bible study or come read with me, because they go, well, they're going to see me being imperfect. Yeah. But it's not about being imperfect. It's how we handle our imperfections.
You're right.
So being a Christian is not, I'm perfect, look at me, blah, blah, blah. That's arrogance, right? It's how we handle our imperfections differently than others. So when you like owned it and you're like, I got to own this stuff, that's when they went, oh, that's a true believer right there. Not because you were perfect, but now the dots connected and the testimony, they got to go, no, he's a real believer. Not because he doesn't lose his temper or didn't whatever. It's because of what he did with it in that moment. So I love how you've modeled that.
Well, if guys would pick up the Bible and read about guys, they were all imperfect.
They all were. Every single one.
Individuals.
Yeah.
I think of one of my favorite stories is Gideon. And Gideon's talking to the angel of the Lord, right? Now, he's got an angel standing right in front of him, and I have a feeling that this angel was probably something to look at. I'm just thinking, if I saw an angel, I'd be like... So he's talking to an angel, and the angel tells him, this is how it's going to go. And he goes, I don't know if I really believe you. Right? He goes, how about I put out this fleece? He puts out a fleece. So that's the first time. Then the angel comes back, and he goes, well, let me do it one more time. Well, that's me. I mean, like, really, God, is that you? Is that you? And God's like, yeah, it's me. Yeah. Stupid. Turn the corner and go the other way on the path. But, we gotta pay attention. But if they read the Bible, the guys, again, Peter was one of my favorite guys.
Yeah, exactly.
He got out of the boat. Yep. Did he start to sink? Yeah. I get out of the boat. I start to sink, and then I'm like, hey, help me out.
Right.
So, well, I can't wait to see what this new chapter is like for you. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think your story is great. I think the impact you've had is far greater than you know. I think the way that you've modeled yourself and the authenticity in which you've carried yourself on all the shows and all the projects you've done is fantastic. And I appreciate you coming and spending time with us. And it won't be the last time, if that's okay.
Anytime you'll have me. I'll fill in or come
Next
by.
time it may be by Zoom,
like
and you'll be in Alaska telling the story of
Let's
the
do
history of gold. Or we'll come up there and do a show with you.
That would be fun.
We'll do an
go.
episode.
Let's do that.
We'll do an episode with you.
Let's do an
I heard
episode
that.
in Alaska.
Oh, everybody on production crews just going.
Yeah,
right now. Everybody's
right.
like, we're in. Let's do it.
The great Dave Turin, former Oregon State great.
Yeah.
I can at least say that. That's good. And longtime Gold Rush, Dave Turin's Lost Mines, and then the future I know is going to be bright. and the way you're modeling people on camera and off. We appreciate having you.
Thank you.
And that is Vertical Pursuit. We appreciate all of you for listening and watching us, and we will see you next time. We invite you to subscribe to our podcast, comment, or message us, and check out our website at verticalpursuit.org. Download the VP app and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.